apart from Egypt. Deliverance. How God prepared Israel as a nation. They had to go through various misunderstanding, difficulty, very strict laws, which all made their life miserable and uncomfortable. They wanted to come out of that place where they were living more than 400 years. Today we are going to study from chapter 2, 1 to 10, how God prepared a family. God willing, next week we will study how God prepared Moses, the man, the deliverer. So today, how God prepared his family, Moses' parents, and his siblings. Shall we read one verse from Numbers chapter 26? 26:59.
लेवियों के कुल ये हैं, अर्थात लिब्नियों का, हेब्रोनियों का, महलियों का, मूशियों का और कोरहियों का कुल, और कहात से अब्राम उत्पन्न हुआ।
59.
और अब्राम की पत्नी का नाम योकेबेद है, वह लेवी के वंश की थी, जो लेवी के वंश में मिस्र देश में उत्पन्न हुई थी, और वह अब्राम से हारून और मूसा और उनकी बहन मरियम को भी जनी।
Okay. The name of Abraham's wife was Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, and to Abraham she bore Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. 5 members were there in that family. Moses is the youngest. And here we see this family, how God has very specially prepared that family. Family is very important to God. You see any work in any place, any church, behind that at least you will see one family. Sometimes more families. They have taken the burden, the pain, the preparation, the prayer, lot of involvement, lot of sacrifice. Sometimes one family, sometimes more than one family. Their involvement in the work of God progress that work in that area. So every family is important. Good families will make good church. If you want to have a good church, first, the families should become good. When good families come together, naturally, we will get a good church. So family is very important. So here we read about Amram and Jochebed's family. See, towards the end I want to say this, but in the beginning I want to say, this family was highly successful. Why? All the 3 children were equally committed. They became great people before God. Moses became the great deliverer, leader, lawgiver, and writer of the first 5 books of the Bible. He became an unusually great man. Then we read about Aaron, the first high priest. Aaronic priesthood, we read. He was again a great man of God. Then we read about Miriam. Miriam, the leader of women. When Israel, after the crossing of Red Sea, they started, praising God together. Miriam led the ladies. So all the 3 children became very great in the sight of God. So you can say that this family was highly successful. Now we will see a few things about this family. First thing, a slave family. They were living in difficult times, and they had to do very hard job. Then lot of burdens, very strict laws, misunderstanding. And that time, a Hebrew child is born, a boy is born, he is being killed. That was a strict law from the land. They will not be allowed to have boys in their home. That was the law. Today, we often hear in the newspaper and even some TV debates also. Even right here in Gujarat, the percentage of girls are very less. Where did the girls go? I think here it is 80, 90% or something. In some states, it is less than 90. So that is going to create a lot of imbalance. But in those days, as far as the Jews were concerned, and a male child is born, the king has given already an edict that he should be killed. That was the law given. 1 minute, please. Hello. So there was a law in the land that male children should be killed. That was the time Moses. So they were a spiritual family. That's why we read about them. When Moses was born, they recognized that he is a beautiful child. Verse 2. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. So they were a spiritual family. They understood. Somehow they could recognize that God has a special plan for this family, this son. And because they were spiritual, they could recognize that. Today in our country also, according to the government rules, a third child is born and many other privileges which the first two children get, they will not get. The third child will not get. Whatever it is. No, we need to know that what is given by the Lord should be accepted. Given by the Lord should be accepted. So, as I said, these three children, God had a bigger plan, a greater plan about the third child. So the parents somehow they could make it out and they have taken the risk. So that is what we read here. They hid him 3 months. So first thing is it was a slave family. They had already a lot of difficulties. Their life was not pleasant. They were going through hard work and their life became very miserable. And the law was existing that the male child should be killed. That time, they have taken the risk to protect this child. Okay, second thing, what we see, when the child was born, the son was born. And as soon as they recognize it's a boy, those days, they didn't have this sonography or, other test which can determine the gender of the fetus. It was not there. So as soon as he was born, as soon as the child was born, they recognized that he is a boy, and according to the king's rule, he should be killed. But they decided to go against the law. They hid him 3 months. So what is the first thing we learned there? What you can do, you do. What you can do, as long as you can do, you do it. Rest of the things God will take care of. That's an important truth. What you can do, you do. Rest of the things you leave to the Lord. He will take care of. So the parents accepted it. They decided to go against the rule, the edict of the king, and they decided to take risk, and they protected the child. Then the third thing what we notice here, then came a time after 3 months, they found that in that small hut, it is very difficult to protect the child, hiding the child. There is possibility that their life also become in danger. And the other children can go become orphans. So they prayed. How did they get the idea of making an ark? Probably they heard properly about the time of flood, how God protected Noah and his family. When all the other people perished, this one family was protected in that big ark. So here they decided to make an ark. They wanted to secure the child. Secure the child. How did they secure? Verse 3. And when they could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes, dubbed it with aspalat and pitch, tar and pitch. You know, there is a wonderful thing happened. Few years before, the American oil company's director, one of the directors, one morning he was reading this portion. He was working with an oil company in America. So he read this passage. Suddenly that word, tar, aspalat, drew his attention. And he started thinking, how did a slave family in Egypt get this tar so easily? That was the question in his mind. So he decided to go to the office and share with the co-directors. And he told them, if a slave family in Egypt got aspalat, then definitely there is oil in that area, plenty of oil in that area. That is how the American oil company came to initially Saudi Arabia and the surrounding areas, and they have found a great storage of oil, which revolutionized the world. Oil they found and started drilling and distributing. And we all know that in our lifetime, how the world is changed because oil is being discovered. And the reason of this mass scale of oil discovery is based on this one verse. When I was reading this, I just remembered that story which I read in a book. So anyway, when they wanted to secure this child, they put him in an ark, and then they have taken to the Nile River. And they were not knowing how things are going to happen. They had no idea. So again, here the thought is, what you can do, you do. How long you can do, you do. Rest of the things you leave to the Lord. When it comes to God's work also, it is like that. And we are not going to be here all the time. And there will come a time God will say, your work is over. You finish your work and go. Rest of the things God will take care of. And our God is a God like that. So here this family, no more they could hide him. What did they do? They put him in a basket or in a small ark and put him in the Nile without knowing what is next. They had no idea. Then we see the sovereign control of God. When you do what you can do and you leave the rest of the things to God, God will take care of that. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to believe. And here what happened, it will amaze us. What happened? Pharaoh's daughter comes there, we read here. Then verse 5 onwards, the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bath at the river. Her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. When she opened it, she saw the child. Behold, a baby wept. So she had compassion on him, said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. And then Moses' sister said, I will call someone. She gave her permission. And then Moses' mother came and she entrusted this child to her. Is it all accidentally happened? Humanly looking here, people will think that this is accidentally happened. But you know, the sovereign control of God. God controls things more than what we can think or imagine. From the same place, the law to kill the male child came from the palace. Moses is being taken, this boy is being taken to the same place. So what all Pharaoh's daughter do here? She came to take bath that particular time. Then she saw the ark. Then she asked to bring it to her. Then she opened. Then she saw the baby, recognized that he is a Hebrew child. Then she had compassion on him. Why? Because she is a woman. Now, women have more attachment to children because they have a motherly heart. Even you will see it in the small children. You know, when they take their toys, what all they do with the toys? You know, they want to act as a mother to that doll. You can see that because they have a motherly heart. And instead of Pharaoh's daughter, suppose some man came, what would have been his reaction would have been different. But here, God sent the right person in the right time, in the right place, and her own thinking is being controlled by God. He is a sovereign God who can control things. And he made all the situations so that this child can be protected, not just being protected by the right person. So sovereign control of God. So we need to believe that God is in control. He is a sovereign God. He is a very powerful God. When things looks disappointing, when there are challenges, we may think that things looks very hopeless. Even in such situation, God can reverse things and God can help us. So that is what we see here. The first thing, that this sovereign God is controlling the entire situation. Entire situation. Why Pharaoh's daughter is behaving like this? Because God is controlling her. She is just a puppet in the hand of God. That's all. Now God can do that. We need to believe. Okay. Then we see here, she talks to Moses' mother, verse 9. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. The salaried mother, a mother who received salary for looking after her own life, her own child. Now, faith will have a risk. When you start living by faith, you will have risk. But you know, there will be reward for that. That is what Moses' mother is teaching. You have taken risk. Today you are rewarded. She not only got her child back, she got a reward, salary for taking care of her own son. You may remember that, I have mentioned here once that 3 mothers in the Bible are very unique. First mother is the mother Eve. She is the only woman, only person born in this world, started her life without having a physical mother. That is the Eve. Second one is Moses' mother. What is so unique about her? She received salary for looking after her own son, her own child. No other mother in the world received salary for taking care of her own children. So, but Moses' mother is very unique that way. Then third mother, of course, is the Lord Jesus' mother. And she was a virgin conceived and gave birth to the Messiah. She is unusually an exceptional lady, woman. Gave birth to a boy, a child, without having any physical contact with a man. So that way Mary is a unique mother. So here we see a mother receives salary for taking care of her own son. What I said is this: faith will have risk, but faith will have reward one day. We have to live by faith. Faith in the sense, believing in the Lord for the future. The Lord will take care of. The things may look disappointing, despairing. You are not able to see anything. But leave those things into the hands of God. God will take care of. So faith will have risk, but be sure faith will have reward also. The last thing, we read here, verse 10. And the child grew, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. Probably he was 5 years old. Until 5 years, he was with the parents and with his siblings. You know that Aaron was 2 years older than Moses, and probably Miriam also 2 or 3 years older than Aaron. So he being the youngest, loved by them all, and made a good relationship. Then finally one day he is taken to the palace. I often wondered, it is not clear, how did Moses recognize after all this upbringing in the palace, all the best education, best training, all got in the palace, How did he recognize one day that he is a Jew and he is the deliverer and the time is nearing for the deliverance of Israel and he has to go? It is not clear written here. Bible is silent about it, but I use my imagination. Moses' mother was a frequent visitor to the palace, and when the child comes, runs toward her and sits in her laps, she will tell him how God has delivered him, how he is a very unique child, what is God's plan for his life. She used to tell him. Probably his siblings, Miriam and Aaron, had opportunity to meet him frequently, and it was an opportunity for both the parents and the siblings to tell him, he being the youngest, that God has delivered him from death and protected him, how he reached in the palace, and all these things, how God's hand is worked behind him, and God has great plan for his life. So through his mother or the parents, and including his siblings, he might have understood this thing. So we will read one verse from Psalm 78, verse 3. Psalm 78, verse 3.
जिन बातों को हमने सुना और जान लिया और हमारे बाप दादों ने हमसे वर्णन किया है, उन्हें हम उनकी संतान से गुप्त न रखेंगे, परंतु होनहार पीढ़ी के लोगों से यहोवा का गुणानुवाद और उसकी सामर्थ्य और आश्चर्य कर्मों का वर्णन करेंगे.
This is the responsibility of the parents, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from our children, telling to the generation to come the praises of the Lord. So parents have the great responsibility of telling to the children, the future generation, who we are, how we are different, what is God's unique plan about us. We parents have to tell to the children. And Moses' parents faithfully did that. As a result, Moses became the deliverer. He understood God's plan about his life, and he was used in the hands of God. So children need to hear about God's dealing with his people. Who are God's real people? What is God's expectation of them? What God wants them to do through their lives? Children should hear. As I said in the beginning, from this family was so spiritual, prayerful, committed. How do we know? All the three children became great people of God. Miriam became great. Aaron became the high priest. Then Moses became the deliverer, the leader, the lawgiver. Then the man who wrote the first five books of the Bible. How did it happen? How did one family accomplish so much? How all these three children became so great? We can think about your parents. So their parents were unusually committed people. They were ready to take the risk, and they have taken the risk, but they were greatly rewarded by the Lord. So as families, this evening, I want to encourage all the families. We have great responsibility towards our children. When we leave this world, we leave our children here. They should be there to become useful for the Lord in the future generation if our Lord's coming is delayed. So we have a responsibility. We might have given education and many other things to our children, but that is not enough. We have to tell them about God's wonderful plan, about God's church, God's people, what God is doing in this generation, in our generation and the next generation, if our Lord's coming is delayed. And there, what is their role, how they have to be used. So if all our families become faithful in that way, and children, and all the children come, all the children become spiritual and useful for the Lord. What a great blessing it is. So as I said in the beginning, great families will make great church. And how do we know a great family, a good family, a spiritual family? Look at the children. Children will be the reflection of what is inside happening in the house, how the parents are preparing. So brothers and sisters, it is my request, let us faithfully do our responsibilities towards our children, and so that in the next generation, wherever they are, there they will become useful for the Lord. As all the three children, these three siblings, became wonderful people of God, may it happen with our families also. May the Lord bless this words.